been a while since I've been on the podcast, doing an introduction on the podcast. I know at one point I said I will be introducing the episode before it releases, but I kind of stopped doing that because I found like I don't have time sometimes, and I would not find the time to do it. But today I decided that I need to jump on here and just say a little bit of something, not to take a lot of your time because I know a lot of you are waiting to listen to this amazing episode that I've done with one of the greatest dancers and the DJs. She's the official DJ of Karol G. She's a dancer with Block LA in Los Angeles, and she tells her story, her journey. It was an amazing conversation. I'm glad that y'all are tuning in today to listen to it. But I jumped on here real quick because the last two episodes that I've done, like I think I call myself a perfectionist because I like things to be perfect, and when they don't go perfect, I'm bothered by that. The reason why I invested money to buy a microphone for my podcast is because I was bothered by audio, and every time I get bad audio, it kills me inside. I feel like I want to cancel this episode, but then it was an amazing episode because they did a good job, and I'm happy by that. But so I want to apologize for last episode with William. My microphone was on, but when I changed the headphones, so the audio went through the headphones. And for Baby Body's episode, my microphone was on. It was just the internet. It doesn't help that I was sick, so my voice was not good. But the internet kind of disturbed my audio a little bit, and you'll hear some funky audio issues in there. But it should be clear enough for you to hear it. There's just a little bit of things they bug me when I listen to a podcast, and they definitely bugged me on that. But next time, I'm gonna promise. And it was weird because I could hear it because I wear these headphones so I can hear myself, and I can hear the person I'm interviewing, and I could hear myself very clear. But the outcome of it was not really clear, and that bugged me because if I had noticed that it was making that sound, I would have changed something, but I wasn't able to hear that. So it messed up my audio, and it bothered me a little bit. But it is not the kind of work I like to put out. I want it to be perfect, and if it's not perfect, it bothers me. But anyways, I'm so excited for you to listen to today's episode with Bibi Bad. She's an amazing person, a humble person. We talked for over an hour, and with editing, it kind of went down, but we talked for over an hour. She has an amazing story. She's a humble, and she's fun to talk to. We had a natural conversation about how people in Uganda showed her love. People like blew up her TikTok account. How she was able to land two big projects, dancing in Naked Truth by Sean Paul. Actually, go check out the video, you'll see her in there. And also being part of the project with Chris Brown and Davido on Blow My Mind. She talks about all those cool projects that she did, and growing up in an island, being an island girl, and landing the job to be the official DJ of Karol G. It was all amazing. So I'm so excited. Without wasting time, let me take you to our conversation with Bibi Bad. Thank you. Mujevale, Mujevale, Mujevale. My name is Bani Kibuka, and welcome to another episode of the Ugandan Ball Talk Show. Welcome to my podcast. I've been looking forward to this recording for a long time, so I'm excited to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
One of the first questions that I wanted to start with, to ask you before I even say anything else, was that moment when you saw my DM in your Instagram. I try to put myself in the position of the other person on the other end. Like, I've never seen this guy. I don't know this guy. Who is this guy? What was the moment for you when you saw my request for you to be on my podcast?
Well, I mean, first of all, I love doing interviews. Like, I love yeah, I just love being a part of interviews. I love like sharing my story, but I also love meeting people, and I feel like this is a
Hmm.
cool way to like connect with people from different places. And when I saw like Uganda talk show, I was like, it's crazy because I don't know, like I just posted a video on TikTok, and from one day to the next, I got all these followers from Uganda, and
Really?
I was like, what? Like, so when I saw you pop up, I was like, this could be interesting.
Hmm. That is crazy that you say that because actually now on my podcast, I've had a lot of dancers from Uganda. I usually like host a lot of different people who do different things. So just share their stories, listen to their stories. Because the reason why I do this is to inspire somebody else. Like right now in Uganda, there is a lot of girls that are starting up to dance. I mean, there are guys that are dancing, but in this case, like there are a lot of girls that are dancing. And my latest episode, actually, last weekend, was a girl who's a dancer in Uganda. She's doing it as a profession. So for the kids growing up in Uganda, we grew up knowing that the only careers that a person can have is be a doctor, a pilot, all those big ones. When
Yeah,
you tell
yeah,
your
yeah.
parents you're gonna be a dancer, it was like crazy. That's not a dream. How did you tell your parents I'm gonna be a dancer?
Um, well, luckily for me, I wasn't in one of those cases where like my parents were not supportive of my goals. They actually were very supportive. Because I just kind of started dancing as a hobby. Like my mom was very serious about like me and my sisters doing like extracurricular activities. So it for her like school is school, but like she always wanted us to like be good at other things and have other things that if school is not your strong suit, that you know what, maybe you love to swim or whatever, you know. So when I told them I wanted to be a dancer, they were like, okay, well, I mean, if this is what you want, like we're going to support you. We're going to, you're going to go out to New York and we're going to see what's going to happen, but it was like my parents are of the understanding that like, like life is not meant to be like this like ABCD thing, you
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like you could go from A to D to C to E,
Right.
so they were like, if it doesn't work out, you could always go back to school. Let's just try, you
Hmm.
know? And yeah,
It worked out. Oh,
that
yeah,
worked
that,
out
that
well.
comes with different things because, like, back in Africa, in Uganda, so we grew up in a culture form. Like, it's a culture. Like, our parents look at things. Oh, the other neighbor's kid is now a doctor. Is that a kid? So I want my kids to be like the person's kids. Like, it's a culture thing that they look at it. This is how,
Yeah,
like, culture norm. When
yeah.
you do something out of the culture norm, it's like an abomination, a taboo. They look at
Yeah.
you as like you're spoiled.
Abomination.
It's like,
No, legit. I mean, it's the same way in the Caribbean too. Like most of my friends have the same experience. If they didn't want to become a doctor or a lawyer, it was like the same type of pushback. But luckily, I was just blessed enough. My parents was like, "Listen,
yeah.
like you can't force a child to be good at something that they're not good at. So if my brain is not equipped to go study law,
Hmm.
why are we fighting against nature right now? It's like
Right.
I'm going to be doomed either way. So let's not
Right.
even go through the process.
Hmm. And the other thing that we used to say a lot, we go to school to learn so we can make money, like get a job, make money. But if you
Mm-hmm.
can make money, because that's what most people go to school for, they think. I mean, now that I've gone through school, I mean, there's different things you can learn from school, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody should go at least to school. Don't just wake up tomorrow and say, I'm not going to go to school at all. I'm going to do these. So there's
Right.
some type of knowledge you get from school that will
Right. For
help
sure.
you with whatever you're going to do. I'm not encouraging people to drop out of school or anything,
Right. For
but
sure. Yeah.
you need the but that first question kind of just popped out of our conversation, but like one thing that caught my attention when I landed onto you and how you do your things, like your story. I listened to your podcast on YouTube with your sister. I think so. I watched the
Yeah.
whole thing. I really
Oh my
did watch
God.
the whole
Wow.
thing, and that's like a while back. I think was it before COVID?
Yeah. It was like
Yeah.
2018.
Yeah, I went
Yeah.
back and then listened to that. It was pretty interesting to pick up some of the things that I wanted to ask you about. But the first thing was Saint Martini. I'm gonna say I confess on this podcast that I didn't know it existed. I didn't know where it was. So the other day I go on Google Maps and I type in, and then it took me to a small island somewhere. Like, how was that life like growing up on an island in the Caribbean? Like for you?
That's so funny. But don't worry, you don't have to like most people I talk to have no idea. So I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Unless you've been on a cruise there. Like some people are like, yeah, I've been there like many times. I went on a cruise or like they don't know about it at all. But yeah, I mean, I would say like I've been like super fortunate and blessed to grow up on an island. You know, like it's literally paradise. It's literally a place that people go to retire. It's where they go on vacation. You know, and I just happened to like grow up there.
Right.
And I would say like one of the best parts for me about growing up in St. Martin, particularly, is that we have like over 150 nationalities
Mm.
of people like on the island, and like on a small 37 square mile island, that means a
Yeah.
lot. That means that you grow up like so well rounded, like understanding people's culture, languages, food, you know, like it's such a diverse place with so many different people. And I think that that's a blessing, you know, because
Hmm.
just like how you said, like, you know, you might grow up somewhere else and like this is just how we do things, this is just how we think, this is just how we are, versus like growing up on an island where you like forced to just learn a little bit about everybody
Right.
is like one of the most amazing like eye-opening experiences, because then when you travel to other places you realize like wow, like you know, like your mind is already so open, you already know things and about people and places that other people wouldn't know, you know, just
Hmm.
by growing up on a small place with so many different people, you know.
Yeah. That is crazy because I see some similarities on things like that because I live in the US now, but Uganda is like out to the side of Alabama, like a small, like a one state.
Hmm.
But we have over 42 tribes in Uganda in that small country, and each tribe speaks a different language. So
Wow.
if you drive like 300 miles from where you live, you're in another tribe land, and they might be
Wow,
speaking another language. But like
that's
the way you
amazing.
see all these people come together, and like for the people who come to like the central, like the capital city, um, so then they get to learn this one language that they're able to use to do like trades and anything like to
Hmm.
communicate. People in that type of situation, they learn how to work with each other because they're gonna
Hmm.
need each other at some
Yep.
point.
Yep.
Whereas here in the US, people are like, oh, we only speak English. I have my thing, I have my job, I have my so they don't necessarily need each other. Different
Yeah.
from where we grew up. One day I told my parents, hey, I'm going to the United States. And I left my mom, my dad, my brother. I went on a flight, moved to America.
Wow.
How was that for you that you left? I mean, I know you still go back and you've been there to visit for a lot of stuff, but how was that for you to know, like, I'm leaving this place, I'm going to go chase my dream in New York?
Yeah, kind of similar in a certain way, you know. Um, on my last year of high school, I decided, you know, like I really want to pursue dance and I want to take it seriously. But I was like in a very like I guess I could say like a very academic school, like a very serious academic school, and so like my teachers were kind of like pushing against the idea of me not necessarily pursuing dance, but they were like, you need to pass these exams first and then you could focus on whatever you want. But at that point, I already decided, like, I want to go pursue dance. So actually, what ended up happening, I ended up leaving my high school to do 2 years of US high school online.
Okay.
So that way I would be able to move and dance and still attend school, but on my own timing.
Mhm.
And that's something that my me and my mom kind of like figured out together. And so she was like, you know, I feel like this is the best option. Like, you already know that this is what you want to do. You want to move. You need to have time to be able to dance. So let's enroll you in this online high school while you go to New York and like figure this out at the same time. So what ended up happening is that I had another friend from St. Martin who was also pursuing dance. And so me, her, and my mom moved to New York together, and basically they stayed with me for 6 months. I think no, the dancer actually stayed for a year. Me and my
Mhm.
mom stayed for 6 months, and that was kind of like my trial period to kind of like figure out like, am I liking this? Is this really what I want to do? And the answer was no. I hated it,
Right.
but I still ended up going back because like I went back home, and my mom was like, girl, like, what are you going to do? Like, you need to do something. You need to like try harder. You need to figure out, you need to put in that work to really say, okay, no, this is not for you, but I feel like you haven't. So I need you to go back and
Mhm.
figure it out. And that's kind of like how my journey started.
I know English is not the first language at
your country. Then how did you get to learn English?
Well, so Saint Martin was colonized by the Dutch and the French.
Mm.
So, like, by law, our official languages are Dutch and French. But like I
Okay.
said, because it's such a diverse place, like the school that I went to was English. So there's Dutch
Mm.
schools, there's English schools, and then on the French side, there's French schools. I think just fully French actually. The French is a serious colonizer. Anyway, different conversation.
Better
But
than British, because British colonized everything in Africa. Like
oh yeah, that's true. But
not
the
everything,
French
but
too, they're probably in competition with each other.
yeah.
But yeah, so I went to an English school. And I think that was more like for convenience because like my two older sisters, they went to Dutch primary schools, so
Mm.
they could kind of like pull off speaking Dutch. But like me, I understand it, but like I fully only speak English.
Wow.
And my mom is American, so she was like, "This school is closer to home. You speak in English anyway. Like you're gonna
Mhm.
learn Dutch, Spanish, French in school. Just go speak English." So
Yeah,
yeah, I speak English. That's it.
that is pretty cool.
But
Because
most
it's
people you meet on the island speak English though. Like
really
the biggest language barrier is really with the French people. Like the French people who come from France to live on the island and are like, "Sorry, I don't speak English," and it's like, okay.
I gotta say, last summer I went on a cruise to the Bahamas. Unfortunately,
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
go to Saint Martin, but the life of I got to go off the cruise and just hang out in the city and just see the life. It reminded me a lot of where I come from, but I like the lifestyle on the islands, like the way people live. I love everything about it, and I would retire and just go live there and spend your life there. Was your whole family like dancing and
Yeah. Well, like I said, like my mom really wanted us to just have a bunch of different extracurricular activities. And so my two older sisters just started dancing like as a hobby, out of the many hobbies that we had. And as my sister is very creative. Like, I mean, that specific one that was doing the podcast, like
yeah?
she's super creative. But she also has the brains. So she was like she went for her degree, her master's, everything.
Mm,
Like she came back, like she had her whole plan of like what she wanted to do. So as much as she loved to dance, it was more of like a hobby. Like I'm definitely like the artist of the family. That's like
yeah.
the way that I think and the world that I live in is just art, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah.
On your Instagram bio, you mentioned you're the official DJ of Karaji. A lot of people don't know Karaji, but I don't understand Latin or Hispanic or any another language, but that kind of music just hypes me up. But not to go away from the question, how did you then get connected to Karaji to become a DJ?
Okay, well, there was a lot in that question just now, and I just want to mention, like even though you don't understand Spanish, like even the history of reggaeton coming from dancehall,
Exactly.
coming from reggae, like, and even the fact that a lot of like Hispanic people don't know the connection or see the connection, even like to the Caribbean, as a whole nother story again. But
But before actually you move on that story, you mentioned reggaeton, and I was gonna ask you that later on, but you mentioned it, and I want to bring it up. So in Uganda, in my high school, like they would play reggaeton like Daddy Yankee, Gasolina, like those songs would just get us up. Like I don't understand what the heck he's talking about, but the vibe and the beat, and so they play a lot of like Jamaican music, Hispanic music, reggaeton. Like reggaeton was a big thing in my high school, and
right,
like a lot of my high school friends who are gonna listen to this later, they can testify.
yeah.
And so like that, and I was watching one of your mixes, like you did a reggaeton, that was dope.
That's the funny part. I did a Daddy Yankee mix on my TikTok, and that's what sent all these Ugandans to my page.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
from one day to the next, I had all these comments like "Hello from Uganda, love from Uganda" under this Daddy Yankee mix, and in my head, I'm like,
Yeah.
"What is the correlation?" Like these people are
Right.
obsessed with this one particular mix. So I'm like, "Wow, I guess in Uganda they listen to reggaeton," because that blew me up. I was like, "What is going on?" Like literally, if I go into like my insights on TikTok, like Uganda's number one
That's crazy.
just from that one mix. So like here we are now,
So it worked out perfect to even have you on the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. That's how we do it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it makes sense. I was like, oh, okay, like this guy from Uganda is hitting me up now. It makes sense.
And actually, like, not to distract you, but that was the mix that I saw. And even, I mean, others like the ones you made for the Afrobeat. I'm big into Afrobeat. I'm gonna ask you about the Afrobeat too. But yeah, that brought me to wanting to interview you, and here we are. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah, it was
So,
super
anyways,
cool.
walk us through how you landed or met Karol G, and when you got the opportunity.
Yeah, so that was like very random. It was like one of those things that was like right place, right time, but also like meant to be, you know? So I have a friend who used to dance for J Balvin, who's another reggaeton artist, and the team was in town, the band was in LA, and so she invited one of the band members to come to an event that I was playing at in LA. And it was like the event usually most events I play at are like Afro Caribbean, and like, you know, I mix reggaeton, Afro, dancehall, soca, you know, the diaspora. And he had a great time. You know, we met. I didn't think anything about it. A month later, like, he messages me on Instagram and he's like, "Hey, Karol G's team is looking for a DJ. I feel like you'll be perfect for this job. Are you interested?" And I'm like, I myself didn't really know much about Carol. I knew she was a big deal. I knew like maybe like two of her songs, but like as much as I love reggaeton, like I just didn't really know much about her, to be honest. But I was like, wow, like that would be like an amazing opportunity. Why not? So he was like, okay, like I'm gonna send these people your number, and then like they reached out to me and they were like, send your information. But in my head, I'm like, there's no way that this is happening right now.
Hmm.
And like, there's no way it could be this easy. Because I always used to wonder to myself, like, how do DJs become DJs for like artists? You know, how do
Right.
they end up traveling with these artists? Well, I sent them my information, my mixes, you know, like a bio, everything about me, and like a few days later, they got back to me and they were like, "Well, like we really love you. We want to have you on the road with us. If you're interested, let us know." And I was like, "Well, of course!" Like, you know, it was top of the
Yeah.
year, 2023. I'm like, "Wow, like this is dope." Like,
Yeah.
it just felt like they're looking for a female DJ, but what are the odds of like me coming from this random small island having this opportunity versus like, you know, everybody else on the team speaks Spanish and they speak English, but I think Spanish is like their first language. I'm like, what are the odds of her like not looking for like a Colombian female DJ or like,
Right.
you know, somebody from another um Hispanic country? So I was like, you know what, like this just feels like something that was like meant to just carry me to the next level in my journey. So I was like, heck yeah, let's do it.
Sometimes things are just crazy. Like you never know the whole story, but opportunities are always gonna come and they'll find you. And I think that's something you shared when you were on that podcast too, like a while back. During that podcast, you had just come back from Japan, and you were sharing your story about Japan. And there's a line you shared, and if I wrote it down here, and I think they were asking you where you see yourself in the next few years. You had never landed these jobs, you've never done all these things that you've done so far. But now, for me as a person who watched the podcast and listened to what you were talking about, the next steps where you want to see yourself, I feel like you're living the dream. I would put it that way.
I don't think like often enough we don't look back.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
we just like keep going and you just keep wanting more, but you don't actually take a step back to like recognize like the things that you wanted that actually happening
Mhm.
for you now, you know?
It's crazy. I used to write my dreams down on the notebook. I still write a few. And when I was organizing my house one time, I landed on a notebook that I wrote in 2015, and I wrote a list of things I wanted to achieve. And all those things I wrote down, I achieved all of them. And there was
Wow.
nothing else on the list. And it's something that happened that I didn't even know. And like you said, we forget. If I didn't find the notebook, I wouldn't have reflected on that. And do you enjoy being a DJ? And also, I had a question that does it give you a plus to be a dancer and you become a DJ?
Honestly, I would say so. I would say so because the way that dancers listen to music is like out of this world. And like dancers know what people like, you know what you would want to listen to that would make you dance.
Hmm.
So it's just already in my brain. Like it just already makes sense. I'm like, yeah, like this. And it's like I don't usually plan my sets, but like in my head, like everything just makes sense. I'm like, oh, like this song would go so perfect after this song, you know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's just a vibe. Like I mean, like I would say some of it is like being a dancer, but then maybe not every dancer might have a good taste in music of
Mm-hmm.
like what should come next.
Yeah.
But I think like once you love music, and yes, I do love to DJ. Um, once you love it, it's just like a flow. It's just a vibe.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you listen to music like not being on mix, but just in your personal time? Do you listen to music?
Honestly, I would say I did so more when I was younger. But now I just feel like I listen to music, yes, but not as much as like when I used to live in New York, for example. You have to take the trains everywhere, you have to walk
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. So my music was in my ears like 24/7. But
Yeah.
now like being in LA, for example, like you hop in the Uber maybe like 15 minutes away. Like I don't I don't feel like I have as much time the way I did before to just like really listen and enjoy. It's more like I have to remind myself like stop doing the work as a DJ and just go listen to some other things,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So yeah.
Because I was gonna ask you what are some of your favorite songs to listen to. Like, do you have a genre you listen to? Because when you're a DJ, like on YouTube, especially like for the listeners, I would say go check out her mixes on YouTube because I've listened to all of them. So like you mix reggaeton, you mix Afrobeat, you mix soca, like you said. Is there like a type of music? Yeah, you have a piano, don't you? I think you have a mix
I'm
of
a
a
piano too,
piano.
yeah.
Is there a type of music that you like more than the other?
Oh yeah, for sure. And it all depends on my mood too. So like on my
Yeah.
Spotify, like I have a bunch of playlists depending on like my mood, you know? So if I'm going out, maybe I might listen to like some dance hall that'll get me like hype and get ready to move, you know? But like if I'm just like chill, mellow sunset vibes, like I have a playlist for like every feeling, you know?
Yeah.
Because like you don't always want to be on a high, you don't always want to be on a low. Like depending on how you feel is the playlist that you might choose.
Yeah.
But I would say like my favorite genres to play, for example, like I would say like this is a lot too actually. It just depends on the vibe of the party. But for example, like I love EDM. Like I love that old EDM from
Mm-hmm.
like 5 to 10 years ago. Like that was just
Yeah.
such a vibe, you know, and like I had the opportunity to like play that in a club once and it was like the best feeling ever, you know? But
Yeah.
then I also love like baile funk. Like baile funk is like to
Mm.
me it kind of I don't know, it's just music is just crazy. Like it's like a
Yeah.
Brazilian type of funk vibe, you know, but then I love dance hall too. But then like would I necessarily listen to that on my own time? Maybe not, you know, I would probably like be in my like if I have to like focus on like doing some work, maybe I might listen
Mm-hmm.
to like lo-fi, like Afrobeats lo-fi,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, it just depends on the mood.
I do that too. Like my music depends on the mood. I mean, I literally have every playlist. Like I have Afrobeat, I have like chill R&B, I have like hip hop, I have like Christian. I have so it depends on what mood I'm at, and that's the type of
Yeah.
song I'm gonna listen to.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
but that brings me, and on your Instagram you have like Afro Nation. How did you get your first connection with Afrobeat? And you have some dances you've done, you have mixes you've done, and I don't know for sure. I was gonna say I know on on the island, like you guys. I don't know if you had Afrobeat, but when was the first time you connected with Afrobeat, and what was it after you connected with it?
So Afrobeat the music, right?
Afrobeat, the music, yeah.
Um I would say like so one thing about my island is that like people are very particular about what they want to hear. Like as diverse as it is, people who go out want to hear a particular type of vibe. Like I say if you could play in the Caribbean, if you could play for Caribbean people, you could play anywhere in the world because
Right.
they are the hardest people to please and I'm 100% sure about that. Like so I would say, like, for example, like when Burna Boy came out with yeah, you know, like
Yeah.
that was like what, like 5 years ago now,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, if
Mm-hmm.
not more, probably more
Yeah.
actually. 7 years, maybe even 10 at this point. It feels like it's that old. But like I remember the song was out for like 2 years already,
Right.
and I went home for like a little break or whatever, and these DJs are playing this song for like the first time, and everybody's getting so lit. And I'm like, this song, I still get lit when I hear the song, but I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're just starting to play Afro beats now.
Right.
You know, so they were like way late off the
Hmm.
scene. But it's not because the DJs didn't have the knowledge, it's because sometimes the people are very like close minded about like new sounds,
Hmm.
which yeah, I feel like that's again a whole nother
Yeah,
conversation
I
on
know a
like
lot of people who don't like to listen to new songs. Like they just stick with the songs in New Year's. But I'm that kind of person who, when there's new music, especially when an artist releases a new album, like if Chris Brown releases a new album, I'm gonna listen to the whole album and then pick some of my favorite songs. Like if Drake releases one, I do that. I listen to an album and then I'll find my favorite songs on that.
yeah, exactly. Like some people go out and the purpose of like for me when I go out, especially in LA, like I love LA for that reason. Like there's so many different niches and parties depending on what song you like. But like there's parties that you go to and people are literally like listening, like waiting for the beat to drop or waiting for like this
Right.
vibe to drop and it's like they just like it doesn't matter if you never heard the song before, like they just in it, you know? Versus like back home, for example, like if you do something like that, like if you take a song that everybody knows and you remix it, that could probably be the worst thing to ever do. You would think it would be like the best thing, like, yeah, I got this
Right.
remix, they gonna love this. No, it's like, can you just play the original? Like just play what it is. Like I don't want to hear no
Mhm.
remix, you
Right.
know?
I've seen you dance to like some Afrobeat songs, and that brings me to the one song I also added on my description. The one with the video "Blow Your Mind." So I didn't know that song a few years back when it came out, and I went to record a podcast with my friends, and they're both African Americans. They were born here, and we went to this guy's house, and before we record a podcast with him, he likes to play an Afrobeat song. So for our intro on one of our songs was that "Blow My Mind," and we all like just started dancing to it. That was my first time encountering it. I loved it. So I went to watch the video. I watched the video. Nothing stuck out to me. But when I connected to you, I'm like, I think I've seen her somewhere. So I went back to the video and I rewatched it. And there you were in the group like dancing.
Right,
Um,
right.
Tell us about how you got into the projects too to be a part of the music video and what the whole experience was like.
Today's episode is sponsored by Dancesoft Gamers. Dancesoft Gamers is the leading distributor of video games and other consumer gadgets like the podcast microphone sets, ring lights, headphones, and affordable smartwatches, and many other cool gadgets. For these and more, visit their website at www.dancesoftgamers.co. That is www.dancesoftgamers.co.
Yeah, that's a really funny story. So there's like one of my good friends, Huli Boy. Maybe you know him if you follow like dancers that do Afro beats. Like he's definitely like one of the leading dancers in the world right now. And I met him in New York, and we just always been cool friends. And so one day, like a lot of the African artists, I feel like they really support the dancers because I mean, at the end of the day, the dancers are the ones that blow up the music sometimes, you know.
Yeah. Hmm.
So yeah, one day DeVito was following him, and one day he got a call, and he's like, you know, DeVito's like, listen, I got this project coming out soon with like this really big pop artist. I'm gonna need you to get you and your friends together to like represent for the culture. And he's like, well, okay, like just let us know when. And then the next thing you know, like he sends a song. We find out it's Chris Brown. Like they're flying us out to LA, and this is when I was living in New York.
Okay.
Yeah, so they flew us out to LA, they put us up, and like yeah, it was just like from one day to the next, this is what's going on. We dancing for Chris Brown, DeVito, and what was really dope is like DeVito was like super cool. Like he was inviting us to his little what do you call it? Like Beverly Hills. I don't want to call it a
Yeah.
mansion because it wasn't a mansion, but it's like, you know, one of those condos that you rent. And like he was just mad cool. Like he's just like go have fun at the pool, like do whatever you want. Like he was just like so happy go lucky, like whatever, you know.
Were you starstruck?
Not
Like,
really. Like
yeah.
I'm I'm not usually starstruck by famous people.
Okay.
I would say with Chris Brown, I was a little more like, ah, you know. Even though like I kept that inside, obviously. And even
Yeah.
meeting Chris Brown was really nice too. Like he was super sweet, super humble.
Mhm.
Like he shook all of our hands. He was, giving eye contact. And I feel like small things like that really tell you about a person, because like you could go on set with an artist and they could just be like, "Hey everybody, okay, let's get this show started." But he was really just like down to earth, so humble. So
Yeah.
like the whole experience. Well, what was funny about actually being on set is that like so originally the creative director had a vision for like what he wanted us to wear, and he wanted us in like these suits, and Huli was basically like, if we had to represent for the culture, like why are we wearing suits doing Afro beats behind Chris Brown? Like like it's given Chris Brown like pop song. It's not
Right.
given
Afro.
uh it's not given Afro. So he asked for permission to like change the direction, and because DeVito was the one who was like, kind of like leading the project, he was like, yeah, like, give them the freedom to represent. So Huli knew this fashion designer in LA. He hit her up. It was like 2 days before the shoot, and she had to put together these outfits for us. And we were like, yeah, okay, we're not gonna wear shoes because it kind of doesn't make sense with the vibe. And then it's
Mhm.
crazy. We ended up dancing on gravel, and like they were like, we can't continue filming you right now because like we were dying. Like after like a
Mhm.
few takes, um, we were done. So they were like, okay, well, we have some good shots. This is it.
Yeah.
And so like that was the shortest music video I ever did in my life because they were like, yeah, this is it. We can't go anymore. But it was dope.
It was pretty cool. And I know a lot of my friends and people who are listening will go back and
And watch it.
watch the video to make sure. But in before I go to another music video that I was going to ask you about, let me talk about the red hair. That's like your signature hair, or like what brought the idea to just go red hair? And I know you've changed a few times. I've seen some pictures where you
Yeah.
had a different colors, but it's mostly 90%, I would say, red hair.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I like when I was, what was I, like 15? Like again, I have older sisters, so I feel like they were like of influence, like them just being older and being able to do certain things.
Mhm.
So like both of them in the teenage years like dyed their hair like blonde, like caramel blonde, like with streaks or whatever. And so I'm like, oh well, I'm gonna follow down the same path. Like I want to dye my hair too. So yeah, like I think when I turned 16, I was like, oh, like I want to get some like blonde streaks in my hair, go for the
Yeah.
whole caramel curly look, whatever. Um, but then like I felt like everybody else who looked like me back home had the same thing. Like I was like, why do we all look alike? Why are we all doing the same thing? And I was like, I want to be different. Like I don't want to feel like everybody else. And yeah, one day I was like, I feel like I would look dope with red hair. And that's
Right.
like that's how I felt inside. Like I felt like for me like red is like fire, passion, like drive,
Mhm.
and like those are things that like I really felt at that time. Like I was like, is an expression from the outside, from what's going on inside.
Yeah.
And so from the moment I did that, it was just like, okay, like trying this new color. But then as I started to like get into the industry and start to work and do music videos and stuff like that, like people in New York especially and back home, they started to identify me as like, oh yeah, like that's that Caribbean girl with the red hair,
Mm.
so then I was like, oh, like this is actually like, for people, this is like my identity, and
Mhm.
and it started to feel like that for me too. And like I just kept going with it. And it wasn't only until the pandemic I was like, well, I'm home, I'm not working, I want to experiment and try some other things, and then that was the moment in time when I tried the pink and the purple, but I
Yeah.
always knew that I was coming back to the red.
It stands out. It stands out. Like even watching that video of the one we're just talking about, when somebody goes in the video, there was a lot of other people dancing, but the red hair stands out. Like you notice it first
Yeah,
thing
notice
when
it.
when
Yeah.
you look at that. Speaking about music videos, you also had another one, "Naked Truth" by Sean Paul, and that's another artist that is big in Uganda. Like at least when I was growing up, who didn't
Yeah.
know Sean Paul? Like
Who
everybody
doesn't
knew.
know Sean Paul?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like who doesn't know him? Like he's, I don't know. It's crazy, and I don't want to bring this other topic about in, but because of the Grammy, because he was in the Grammy, and then ended up, I think Soldier, the U.S. reggae group won. I was surprised by it, and he was on the Breakfast Club talking about it, and he was surprised by it too. But that's a topic for another day. I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he's like the goat.
Yeah.
And you met him when you were in Puerto Rico too. I saw a picture of you with him
Yeah, yeah.
when
We
you
reconnected in
into.
Puerto Rico. That was really dope.
So when did you meet him, and how did you get that project too to be in his music video, Naked Truth?
Um, yeah, so that's another like very interesting story, but there was like a creative director that hit me up, and she's Sean Paul. She usually does a lot of work for Sean Paul. But she hit me up for his artist. His artist is a Jamaican artist named Ching Ching,
Okay.
and he's not viral like Sean Paul, but he's like in Jamaica, he's a pretty big deal, and like around the Caribbean a little bit too.
Hmm.
So she was doing a music video for him, and she was like, hey, I'm looking for some girls to do this music video. And by the way, it's like she's a big deal. So at that time I was like, oh my God, like she just randomly hit me up on my Instagram asking if I know any dancers, if I'm available, so ended up on set, ended up like choreographing the whole thing with the other dancers. And Sean Paul was there with his artist. And so I had the opportunity to meet him. I told him I was from St. Martin, and like from that moment on, like he was just like, yeah,
Yeah.
like I like this girl. And so after spending all day on set shooting the video for his artist, he told the creative director, he was like, I would really love to have her come to LA and do this music video with me. So she told me that on set, and I was like, of course I would love to be in a Sean Paul music video.
Hmm.
And so just like from that point, from the point of doing his music video, we had been connected. Like it took him a while to follow me back on Instagram, I'm not gonna lie. It
Yeah.
took him to follow me back like a year later. But like from that point, he literally always supported me. Like he would comment on like my videos, and like even when I became a DJ, I was like, I really want to message Sean and ask him if he would like do like a drop, which is like a DJ drop. So like, hey, what's going on? It's Sean
Right.
Paul.
Yeah.
You're listening to my girl DJ BB Bad. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna message him
Hmm.
because I'm like, why not? I
Yeah.
messaged him and he was like, yeah, cool. Like literally, he was like, what's your number? He texted me on WhatsApp. He personally sent me the drop on WhatsApp, and I was just like,
That's cool.
so humble, so just like for the people, when somebody is just like,
Hmm.
and even when I found out that he was going to Puerto Rico, I messaged him on Instagram. I didn't want to text him.
Yeah.
I messaged him on Instagram and I was like, hey, like I'm gonna see you in Puerto Rico. I'm here with Carol. And then like when I found out that he was backstage, like I was a little nervous to even go say hi, even though I know
Yeah.
we've been connected the whole time. But like I went to talk to him, and he was just like bigging me up, like telling his friends, like, yeah, like she played piano and she's a dancer and now she's a DJ and that. And I'm like, wow, like somebody of his caliber is like he knows me, like he's
Hmm.
taking the time to like recognize me and be like, yeah, like, shout out to you for like doing all these great things. And I'm like, yo, like how you
Yeah.
even remember, like, how you even
That's
remember
dope.
me, but
That's pretty dope.
yeah.
And while you were talking about that, I just put myself in your shoes, just like to me, messaging you and having you in my podcast just showed me how humble you are. I meant to say that in the beginning. I don't even know if I said it, but like you didn't hesitate or anything, or like I don't know this guy or anything. Like you just made it so easy, so simple. Because people who are in your shoes, or people who will be like you, wouldn't want to do anything with me. Like nobody knows me. I'm just doing my thing, just interviewing people and just building a
Mhm.
podcast, having a conversation. It's not like I'm gonna pay you. It's your
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
But you didn't look at any of that. You're just like, yo, cool, yeah, I would love to do this. And every time I checked on you to remind you, like, hey, we're still recording. It's like, yeah, we're doing it. And like, even before I reached out to you this morning, you're like, hey, we're still doing the recording. It's like, yeah, and I love that. I like, to me, that means a lot to me, and it's cool to see and hear you share that somebody else did that for you and you're doing it
Yeah,
for another
exactly,
person. So
exactly,
that's
exactly.
pretty cool, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. I have people in Uganda. No, I'm not gonna. I was gonna embarrass some people here,
You're
but
like, I tried to reach out to somebody and it never
yeah, I
happened.
did. For real, like there's some people who will have like 5,000 followers, but you follow their story and like that'll be a pretty cool story for them to share for another person, because I'm not the only person who listens to my podcast. There's people around the world that listen to it, and I've told people like, you never know where this story is gonna go. Like your story is gonna impact
Exactly,
somebody else, and that's how I look at it. So if somebody says no, I'm like, maybe that's a closed door. And I've said this in the last 3 episodes, like no means for me next opportunity.
yeah,
Somebody says
exactly.
no, so there's another opportunity comes in, and there's another story that comes in that somebody else is gonna listen to.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
anyway, I don't want to take a lot of your time. I usually like try to avoid that, so I'm gonna try to wrap this up real quick. But I have a few lines that you've shared on your stories that stuck out to me, and I wanted to talk about that. At least, if nobody has picked up anything to this point, maybe they will pick up a few, a few from that. After you get what you manifested, or you shared this on your story on Instagram, it says, after you get what you manifested, ask for the discipline to keep it and the wisdom to multiply it. I read that and stuck out to me. I'm like, okay, yeah, that means a lot to me. And when I read it, but what does that mean to you when you shared it?
I mean, I would say like, yeah, it just makes sense, you know? It's like you get things sometimes and then sometimes things might never happen again, you know? But I realized throughout the years, like I really like trust in God, like I really trust in the universe and like the way things are meant to be. But I
Mm-hmm.
also realize that like you have to take the steps forward, you know? You can't just like wait for things to happen. And not to say that I'm that person, but like I always realize time and time again that I can be pushing harder, I can be doing more. And like the words discipline is something that like I'm really trying to like work on this year, like being more like intentional about, if I say I want something, here are the steps, go do it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, because it's easy to just kind of like relax in like a comfortable space of where you are, but that will never help you see like your greatest potential, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
then you ask for the wisdom to be able to like multiply it. You have to like
Mm-hmm.
then take that discipline of what it took you to get to that point and continue to build that discipline to keep it and multiply it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel
Not
like
to just not to just keep it at what you got, but use it
yeah.
to multiply it. And like, I'll refer this to what I just said earlier about you getting connection with Sean Paul and what he did for you. But when you get to that part, you also help another person. So like even me, when I get to where I help another person, that's kind of the multiplying of whatever we have, or the resources you have, or the words you have. Like
Yeah,
you're gonna
exactly.
share them, and then somebody else is gonna hear them, and then that
Exactly.
person will do like that.
Yeah.
Um, Another one was kind of a joke, or not a joke, but it's like, I don't need a therapist. I have dance. It was a story that you shared, and it reminded me. A lot of people say dance is my therapy, but you went ahead to say, no, go see your therapist. For us, we hear like dance is my therapy, and people do that. But you were like emphasizing for people to go see a therapist instead of saying that.
Yep. Yeah, I feel, and that's a such a large conversation on its
Yeah.
own, but like I feel like a lot of people turn to art. You know, a
Mhm.
lot of people when they go through certain things in their life, like art becomes how they express themselves if they can't do it through words, you know? And so like being in the industry, particularly being in the dance industry and the music industry, like, you know, you always hear it's very cutthroat, like people are self-centered, self-absorbed. And I see that all the time. And honestly, like it's like sickening at this point. Like I'm like, who like nobody cares about what it means to just be a good person to somebody else. As much as they might say it, who is actually really showing it, you know?
Mhm.
And so like when I posted that, like I really meant it. Like I genuinely feel like dancers and artists need therapy. Like they need an outlet that's not just like, oh, like I have all this anger inside, let me go dance and like really
That's it
dance
off.
aggressively and let it out, because it's like you're still not processing your pain, you're still not processing the thoughts and the things that like hold you back from your past. Like you need to see a therapist, you need to be able to express yourself and have them ask you certain questions to make you realize why you are the way that you are, and maybe why you stuck, why you feel the things that you feel inside and why they don't go away, you know, why when you dance you feel good and then an hour later you back to square one. So I genuinely feel like dancers and artists
Mhm.
need therapy. And even if it's nothing to do with your past, but like being in the industry is hard. It's
Mhm.
hard to like know who's genuine, know who's real, you know, like so yeah, it's just a lot to like put up with when this is your life. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I
You
posted
you
that.
say you said it right, and yeah, in real life, I like to say podcast is my therapy because when I talk to people, but in real sense, we really need to go to a physical somebody know how you feel and follow up with that because sometimes the things we're used to or the comfortable zones don't reveal the whole truth about us.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, what was the other question? What language do you guys speak at Saint Martin, like in on your island? Is there a language like an a general? I know you said you have different groups of people. Do you also speak different languages there?
Like outside of like the colonizers' language,
Yeah,
like
yeah, like kind of tribe if you have tribes.
so yeah, and I keep saying this the entire interview. Like everything is like a whole big story, like a whole
Yeah.
other story. But like unfortunately, like the original people, like the Arawaks and the Caribs, which were like the tribes that we had back in the day, like they were all killed off,
Okay.
unfortunately. Like some people still have like grandparents, for example, that had a mom that was an Arawak or like a Carib or but like there is actually a language called Papimento, which
Mm-hmm.
is like is more spoken on other Dutch islands, but
Mm-hmm.
that was literally created during the time of slavery, where like they learned Dutch, they learned Spanish, and they had their original mother tongue, and they
Mm-hmm.
blended those languages together so that they could communicate with each other without the colonizers understanding. So
Okay.
my dad, for example, he speaks Papimento. His whole line of family speak that language. You would find people on the island who speak it, but more so on like other Dutch islands where like that is literally like the main language.
Mm. Do you speak the language?
No.
So do you speak? No, no. Actually, don't avoid my question.
No, I'm not avoiding it. I'm not avoiding it. I swear to God, I don't know anything in Papimento. I could probably give you like a line in Dutch, if
Okay.
even.
Because what I wanted you to say in Dutch is, my name is DJ Bibi Bad, and I'm on the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. In
Oh my God.
yeah.
Well, I mean, my name is mijn naam is
Mm-hmm.
Bianca, or like DJ BB Bad, and ik ben like I am here, like ik ben hier and the Uganda
Yeah,
talk
Boy
show.
Talk Show. So do you just speak English? Like you don't speak any other language?
No, legit, I just speak
Really?
English.
That's crazy. I speak like three languages.
Oh, that's amazing.
Well, my
I
mom
mean,
speaks five.
yeah, like my dad speaks like four languages, but
Wow.
unfortunately, he just didn't teach me anything. So here I am.
What's an advice that you would send to a young girl wanting to dance out in the world? I won't say Uganda because there's a lot of girls around the world that would love to dance. What's one advice you give to them?
That wants to dance
Mhm. Like to do it as a career, not just for fun.
as a
Because
career.
everybody
Yeah.
can do it for fun. I can do it for fun. I have my dance moves like a two that I pull out when we go out and then I run out.
Yeah, and
But
then you're like, okay, I need to repeat this over and over.
yeah.
What would I say to, I mean, in general, to anybody that's trying to like chase what they're passionate about? I feel like once you're passionate about something, you would always find a way to like make it happen.
Mhm.
You know, the only thing I would say, and this is like based off of experience of like meeting younger dancers from my island who want to dance, is like you really have to stick it true. You know, because when you're doing something that's not like your typical path. Again, like you said, like being a doctor, being a lawyer, like being a dancer is one of those things that nobody's path will look the same. You know, like you could try to take the steps as the people before you, but it still won't look the same. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so it's like when you have those moments of, oh, do I even love to dance anymore? Like, oh, this is hard work. Oh, my body hurts. That's the moment that will determine like how far you're going to make it if you
Right.
stick through all of that, you know. And like I had this conversation with my friends like over the pandemic. It's like so many people left New York to go pursue other things because they were like, dance is at its ends right now. Like nobody's making money. Like how do I survive? And like that's valid, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like the people who stuck through the pandemic and like made a way until it was time for the world to open back up again. Like they are like being rewarded like so well because it's like, yeah, like I'm still here, I'm still passionate, I still love this, and I'm fighting even harder now. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a struggle, you know, like you have to really love what you do to put up with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I would say, yeah, whatever it is you're passionate about, like find a way, but know that it's not always going to be a bed of roses, you know, like it's going to be a struggle, and you have to determine what struggle is more worth it for you. Because it's not to say that if you go study to be a doctor, like how hectic and crazy is that life, you know?
Right.
And you might have the security of knowing that like you have a steady income, but are you happy? Are you happy with all the amount of hours and work that you have to put in, you know? So everything that you choose in life is going to be a risk regardless. It's going to require like work. It's going to like it's not going to feel so good all the time, but you get to choose like what your thing is going to be at the end of the day,
Exactly.
you know?
That is amazing. Yep, that is true. And then the other one, I want you to send a message to all the Ugandans who added you, or like the Ugandans out there who follow you on TikTok. And I know you've mentioned a little bit, but I
Yes.
just wanted you to send them like a message, and I'll make sure I send this to the people in Uganda so they can listen to it.
Yeah, please do. I mean, of course, like shout out to everybody from Uganda because I mean, I swear, like that was one of the videos that made me viral. Like up to now, I'm still getting mad followers from Uganda and like, you know, like that's the whole point of TikTok. Like you putting your business out there because you hope that more people see it and you get more opportunities out of it. So I just want to send love back to them because everybody was like, love from Uganda, love from Uganda. I'm like, oh my God, like did I ever really think that I would get like this large sum of like people just sending me like all this love? Like, no. So that was really amazing. And I learned something new that Ugandans love reggaeton. So maybe I gotta come out there and do a party one day.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. You should go to Uganda and do a party. So now, yeah, we're coming close to the end of this podcast recording, and I can't stop thanking you a lot. It's like I'm still dreaming that we're having these conversations because I'm so happy. And the fact that it connected to Uganda, I didn't know that. But I want to thank you for that. My final question I want to ask you: what's a life lesson you've learned in life to this point?
Whew, okay. A life lesson. So much. Oh gosh. What's the most important thing to me right now? Life lesson. I would say like one thing I keep learning over and over again is that like everybody's path is going to be very different, and it's very important to like separate yourself from the outside world sometimes, like no social media, no like, you know, like being with yourself and being with God, to listen to what he's trying to tell you, to listen to the next steps of where he's saying you might not know, but this is what you need to do, and you're going to later understand why. So I would say like trust. I would say like trusting in a higher power that even if things don't make sense and even if you don't see the path, that like once you trust, it's going to be revealed to you and it's
Mhm.
going to just be for you. Because I think that like we have a lot of fear around, yeah, like doing things that are like out of the norm.
Mhm.
But when you follow that like feeling in your heart or in your mind, like is leading you to your purpose, and your purpose is leading you to making the world a better place. So why run from that? Why hide from that? Trust the thing that's telling you this is what you need to do, and it's
Right.
going to be great if you just go after it.
Just so you know, you just quoted a Bible right there, and I happen to know that scripture because it's one of my favorite scripture, and I'll share that. It's in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He'll make your path straight." Like literally, what you just said is exactly that. Like our understanding, we might not know everything, but when we just trust in Him, He'll make the path come straight for us.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. So the other question: what gets you excited about life?
I would say, and I'm really starting to like, I always knew this about myself and I felt like I lost it for a while and now I'm coming back to it. Is like what makes me excited is being able to have a positive impact on people,
Mm,
which is exactly why I didn't hesitate to answer your message and do this podcast, because that's like, if it's one thing I want to leave behind is that, like, I want, not as in like in remembrance of me particularly, but it's like there are good people, there are kind people, there are people that just want to see people win, there are people that just want to give all their energy to helping other people become the best versions of themselves, you know? And I think that that's like a huge part of my purpose that I haven't barely even tapped into yet. But this question was a good reminder to even help me reflect and think about like how I could do more of that more often, like really and genuinely like be of service to other people.
that is dope, and there's no better way to end a podcast like that. But before I let you go, I have one final question. It's a signature question. I know I've been saying final, 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 final like 10 times, but this question I ask is who would you like to see on my podcast next? And you're going to help me connect me to that person.
That's actually a really good question, to be honest, and that's really smart, actually. I would say Huli Boy, my friend who
Okay.
I reference with the music video. I think because he's from Ghana
Okay.
and he's a dancer, and I'm sure he has a lot to share that people would be like super inspired by. So
Mhm.
I could definitely connect you guys
Okay.
for the next one.
That would be awesome. And I think I know, I saw him. I think you shared his dance a little bit. And I
Yes,
think
yes,
I went to
exactly.
his
Yeah.
page and I saw his dance too. And there's another girl you danced with. I think you were, I don't remember her name, but you collaborated together on a dance. I think she's from Africa. I could be
Oh,
wrong.
NK. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I saw her too on there. But anyway, I'm not gonna try to prolong this. If I get another chance, maybe I'll have you again for another conversation. But
Yeah, of course.
I appreciate the time. I don't take it for granted.
Mhm.
I've been telling people the last few episodes I've recorded, like when somebody gives you their time, sit down with you, it's like giving you part of their life because there's a lot they could do in 1 hour that we've been here for their life, but they give it out to you and to the people. So I appreciate that, and that sticks out to me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you to you too and all that you're doing, because I know at the end of the day, your podcast is also to shed light and inspiration to your people and around the world. So that could that's something that will live on forever. So thank you for having me and feeling like, you actually want to get to know me and my story. And thank you for being a part of sharing that with your community. And I appreciate it.
DJ BB Bad. I like that name. I like there's a lot of B's in there. I like it. So
You're like,
thank you
boo, boo,
very
boo.
No, actually before I let you go, there's that DJ Kof. Is that in Dutch? Like DJ
Oh, my last name. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Dutch. Yeah, it's Dutch.
Okay, all right. That
It's,
was
it's, it's pronounced Dijkhoffz.
Dijkhoffz. That's why I
Yeah.
was struggling with it.
Yeah, like
Right. Thank you very much, and let's stay connected. I'll hit you up when I'm done editing it and upload it. So, I'll let you know. So let's stay connected, and thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey there, this is Bonnie Kibuka, the host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with a friend and recommend somebody to this podcast. Don't forget to leave a feedback on this podcast because that's how we grow. And also don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. Join us on our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So we would love to hear from you. Thank you very much and be blessed.